Hey guys, and welcome to another video, and today I have for you my most comprehensive beginner's guide to changing your tires on your Toyota Corolla, or any car for that matter. Because we don't want to have our wheels flying off like this, or to others in the extreme like this. This video will be geared to beginners who haven't done a tire change before, which can be daunting at first, but once you know how, I guarantee you'll have the greatest sense of relief and confidence in yourself. It's my hope that this will inspire you to start your own maintenance and absorb knowledge about your own car, which can be very rewarding. So there are several reasons why you should learn how to change your own tires. Now, I've asked myself many questions. Do I really trust my life in someone else's hands? Because basically, I'm at the mercy of someone else's job to do it right. Could it be someone's first day on the job, and it just so happens my car to be that one experiment? How do I know it's done properly, and not fail me later on the highway? And in an emergency situation, do I have the confidence to change a tire on the side of the road? If not mine, then someone else's? Or can I keep affording to go to the shop or dealer? Am I getting ripped off? So there are plenty of reasons to empower yourself with some knowledge to make your own judgment. Now, this can be a very touchy video as everyone has their own ways and methods of changing their own wheels, which I totally acknowledge, but I'll be showing you my way of doing things, and perhaps you'll develop your own from watching this video. So let's get into it, shall we? Obviously, there'll be a few tools you'll need. I'll divide it into two categories: the absolute minimum and optional tools that are nice to have. First off, I recommend getting a low-profile floor jack. You'll find most of the newer cars are getting lower to the ground for efficiency. Just compare the last generation Corolla to the 2020 and there's a significant drop. My smaller 2-ton jack won't even fit under the chassis, but these low-profile jacks are very sturdy and have a wider base, so trust me, it's worth it. Now, if you don't have a proper floor jack, you can always use your emergency scissor jack in your trunk. But use it sparingly since it's only a temporary solution and not meant for regular use. But I recommend learning how to use it anyway, in case you get stuck in a bad spot one day. Now, a word of caution: because the base is so narrow, you need to do this on level ground. Most garage floors are sloped very slightly, and you may even see the jack bend with it, so you need to be very careful if you do this. You'll also need a hockey puck. This is to ensure that you have a wide surface area for contact with the lifting point on your car. Since it's rubber, it'll conform to the shape between both surfaces, and it won't scratch any protective coating underneath. Now, you may have seen people notch out a groove in it. I don't think it's necessary. In fact, I've lost several hockey pucks due to it splitting apart with time, so I don't do it. I believe the weight of the car is good enough as long as you place it dead center. So what I do is draw a line with a light marker so I know where to align it. Now, there are a few cars that recommend not using the pinch weld, but the surface around it. In that case, you may get away with a block of wood with a notch in it. Next, you'll need something called a breaker bar, which is basically a long handle socket wrench with enough torque to loosen your existing lug nuts. With that, you also need something called a torque wrench to retighten your lug nuts with a specific torque specification depending on your wheel. You don't want to have your lug nuts on too tight that it will damage your rims, and you don't want it too loose that your tire may separate. So the torque wrench, once set to a specific foot per pound, will indicate to you when you can stop tightening. And finally, you need the correct sized socket, which will depend on your existing lug nuts. Not all sizes are the same. I highly recommend getting deep sockets to clear some of the space for your wrench movements away from the side of your car. You'll also need a tire inflator. Now, these tools are a bit optional. You may want a flashlight for a bit of clarity depending on where you are. Brake cleaner if you want to do some brake service while your tires are out. If not, you can always use this to spray the rotor down and clean out any brake dust from building up. You may want a pan to catch the excess spray. Your tires may also even have OEM lock nuts that only fit a special socket that usually comes with your car. And this special socket may also require a different size socket to attach it to. A power drill with a socket adapter will come in handy if your hands feel tired twisting the lug nuts on and off. A rubber mallet and a block of wood will come in handy in case your wheel doesn't want to move. Watch my very first video on how to get a stuck wheel off your car with this easy method. Finally, a wheel chock or some sort of wedge to prevent your car from accidentally moving. So now that we made sure that we have all of our equipment here, let's go ahead and check the tires that we're going to put on. So at every tire change, I'll rotate the tires, which means switching the front set of tires to the rear. And we'll have to know which side each tire was on previously. Later on, I'll show you after switching out the tires. I usually take a marker and write down the previous tire position on the storage bag, making sure I indicate this is the previous position, so there's no confusion for next time. So if my cover says this was the rear driver's side last year, then I know this should be the front driver's side this year. Now the reason why we rotate the tires is that both front and rear tires will wear out differently. The front tires will usually wear out faster due to the weight of the engine. So it's a good idea to balance the wear to make all your tires last longer by alternating sides. Also later on I'll show you that I'll inspect the treads, look for cracking in the rubber, also remove any embedded glass or objects I know for next year if I need to buy new tires. But for now, I think these tires that I'm putting on this season are in very good condition. Now, this might be a weird one, but you also want to double check if your tires are directional, meaning your treads are designed for one direction of rotation, which is indicated on the sidewall of each tire. This is typically found in winter tires for more efficient control. There are times that a mechanic may mistakenly fit one set of tires on the wrong side of your rims, in which case you may want to get that corrected before you put the tire on. So let's start by chocking your car by wedging a block against the tire on the opposite side. It's just a safety precaution to prevent any unwanted movement. We're going to take our breaker bar with the correct socket adapter and loosen each nut a full turn on the wheel that we're working on. Now it doesn't really matter which order you loosen them, but I like to do a star pattern just to make a habit out of it for later. Note that I'm turning counterclockwise to loosen them. You don't want to go the other way. At this point, you may encounter a little bit of resistance, which is good. It can usually indicate that your wheel isn't stuck on your rotor. Now, locate the area where your jacking point is. You'll want to refer to your manual, which should indicate the proper location since every car is unique. On my 2020 Corolla, it's at this pinch weld with an obvious extrusion. Now center your rubber hockey puck on the floor jack and roll it into position. You'll want to line up the hockey puck to the lifting point on your car. Once centered, you can start lifting it. Now I would usually stop lifting once the tire is about an inch off the ground. At this point, you can slide a tire underneath the frame in case something happens. Typically, a good floor jack is sturdy enough to work with. You can give your car a little shake for comfort. Now that everything's up in the air, you may now fully remove the lug nuts. You may find that you'll need to use the breaker bar again if there is still some resistance. You may also use a power tool like an impact wrench or a drill to speed things up. Now I like to give the wheel a little shake so I know that the wheel is definitely not stuck on. I'll usually leave the top lug nut on as the last one while I position myself to remove the wheel. The wheel will fall off the hub easily once the last one is removed, so be careful. You'll want to pull the entire wheel straight out. Now if you find your wheel stuck on, you can easily remove it by watching my other video, which I'll link in the description below. Just wipe away some remaining rust and debris from the hub and the threads. Now that the wheel is completely off, you can inspect and perform your own brake service if you'd like. For now, I don't think I would need to, but I will check the brake pads and see how much is left. I'll take the opportunity to clean the rotor down with some brake cleaner to remove any excess brake dust that might have gathered. I'll be careful not to hit the caliper since there are certain lubricants I don't want affected. After it all dries down, I am ready to put the new wheel on. What I like to do is sit and cross my legs while using my toes to hold up the wheel to the hub. Then screw the lug nuts on by hand initially, being careful not to cross-thread any of them. At this stage, we only want to screw them in until we don't need to hold up the wheel anymore. Later on, we'll use the torque wrench. You can use a deep socket adapter which will help tighten them in. Using a regular drill with a light torque will definitely help. When tightening, you'll always want to move in a star-like pattern, which is to tighten each lug nut on opposite sides, one after the other. This actually helps mounting the tire equally flush on all sides, much like when you install a heatsink on a CPU for all my fellow PC builders. Now it's time to reach for your torque wrench. I'll set mine to 80 foot per pounds. You can always refer to your manufacturer's manual. For the final tightening process, my method is definitely overkill, but feel free to use your own. I'll do 4 rounds of tightening each tire. For each round, I'll start with the lock nut if you have one. If not, just choose one lug nut and stick to that order. Again, we'll do a star pattern and try to be consistent for each round. The first round, I'll tighten each nut till I feel there's a bit of resistance. Now, just to mention, I'm tightening all lug nuts while the wheel is in the air. There's a lot of controversy whether you do this while the car is up or lowered to the ground. Everyone has their own way of doing things, there's not one absolute way. But for me, my logic is that since the tire is free floating in the air, I want this completely flush to the rotor. If you're tightening the lug nut while the wheel is on the ground, you'll have to deal with 2 directions of force. One is the downward weight of the car, and the side force you need to apply towards the rotor. If the wheel is not completely flush, you stand the risk of disappearing lug nuts, alignment issues, uneven tire wear, and maybe damage to the wheel or hub. For the second round, I'll tighten each nut until the resistance is more apparent, and feel that the torque limit that we initially set is about to be reached. You'll definitely get the feeling of this after doing several rounds. Note that we're still doing the star pattern starting from the lock nut that we did in the first round. We're tightening one opposite lug nut to another. Now for the third round, we'll tighten each lug nut to its full torque. With this torque wrench, it's easy to know when the wrench gives way and you can mechanically hear a sound. That's when you know you can stop tightening. Notice after each one, I ratchet back the socket a few times by hand to somewhat reset it. It's not really necessary, but I do it for comfort. Now this fourth round is maybe just an ease of mind thing, but I'll give each one last torque for assurance. This is me just checking. Sometimes you can tell everything is good when you can see the previous stains line up perfectly. If you pushed a tire under the car previously for safety, make sure you remove it now. You can finally lower the car slowly to the ground and remove the service jack. If this is your first time changing your tire, congratulations. This is basically the same process for your other 3 tires. Now with that previous tire removed, I definitely recommend inspecting it so you'll know if you need to buy new tires next season. I usually like to remove any stuck pebbles. There have been times where I found bits of glass sticking into the treads. In that case, remove it as soon as possible as you risk it from going deeper and maybe puncturing the tire next time. It's also important, guys, make sure you place the tire somewhere so that you can indicate where it was previously mounted. That way you won't be confused next time you rotate your tires. I have these oversized tire bags which I mark exactly where this tire was mounted. It's super important to mark it in a way that you'd understand, because there was a time where I wrote just left front driver wheel, and when it came time to change the tire, I would wonder if I did that to mount it there this time, or was it to previously indicate its last location. So that's why I underlined that this was the left front driver wheel. Here's a sped up video of the last wheel I changed. Feel free to skip over this part, but it's basically uninterrupted footage of the whole process once you got the hang of it. Now it's time to inflate the tires. Unscrew the cap from the air valve stem and connect your inflator to the valve. I have this really awesome Ryobi air inflator which I recommend that automatically shuts off the pump after hitting a set PSI value. It makes it really easy to have a consistent pressure in all 4 tires. Now to find the correct PSI values for your car, refer to your car's manual, or it can be usually found on the inner side of your driver door. Here, my Corolla says 35 psi for the front tires and 33 psi for the rear. Once inflated to the correct values, remove the pump from the stem and screw back on the valve cap, making sure you don't over-tighten and cross-thread them. Finally, remove the wheel chocks and you're ready to go. Now I recommend taking your car out for a spin. Make sure there's nothing underneath that you may have left under the car. As you put it in reverse, you may initially feel a quick sensation of your tires settling in. In which case, after driving out, I'll quickly retorque the lug nuts again on each wheel. After about 35 kilometers of driving, I would definitely retighten the lug nuts again for the final time. I remember the dealer or mechanic would say that, and I always thought to myself that's their only way of getting you back in their shop, but actually it's needed. There have been times where I found that few of the lug nuts have been loose, so it's a good idea to retorque them. When putting away your things, make sure you return your torque settings on your torque wrench back to 0. And don't forget, if you have a lock nut socket adapter, you may want to put that back in your car. That's it. Hope this video helps you gain some confidence in maintaining your own car and saving a bit of money along the way. Comment below, and if you liked this video, hit that like button, and if you'd enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing to my humble YouTube channel. Alright, cheers guys.